Om Sadashiva-Samadhyamam Shankaracharya-Madhyamam Asmadacharya-Paryantam Vande Guru-Paramparam Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sah Veeryam Karavavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we will proceed to the next verse, which is verse number 10. So let us chant. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Prayana Kale Manasa Chalena Bhaktya Yukto Yoga Balena Chaiva Bhavor Madhye Pranamaveshya Samyak
Bhruvor Madhye Samyak
Satam Param Purusham Upaiti Divyam
Satam Param Purusham Upaiti Divyam.
So I'll just mute all of you. Yeah, so we are talking about, Krishna is talking about the Nishkama Upasaka who has failed to come to Jnanam, but he has been a very dedicated Upasaka throughout his life. Then what are the things he does at the time of his death? So Prayana Kali. Prayana Kali means at the time that the body is, the Sukshma Shariram is leaving the physical body. Prayana Kali, at the time of travel, what happens? Pranam Aveshya. So Aveshya, he controls the prana, he brings it under control, and Bhruvoho Madhyehe, he brings the prana to Bhruvoho Madhyehe, the point in between his eyebrows, and from there, how does he bring it there? He brings it from all the organs of the body, he withdraws the prana, brings it to the Hridayam. This is not mentioned here, this all is mentioned elsewhere. So during this particular Prayana Kalam, these are the final acts of the Jiva, of the Upasaka Jiva. He withdraws all the prana from each organ of his body, and then he brings the prana to the heart. From the heart, he has to direct the prana up through Sushmana Nadihi to Brahma Randraha. So Randraha means, essentially it means a hole or a cavity. So an opening, Brahma Randraha. So Randraha here can be taken as the door. Brahma Randraha, the door to Brahma Loka. So he brings the prana through from the heart, he brings the prana, he takes the prana through the Sushmana Nadi, and then he brings it Roar Madhye, and then brings it to the Brahmarandraha, and he exits through that particular Brahmarandraha. To that opening he exits, and from Brahmarandra it is said that the Jivatma who exits from there, he goes on to a path called Shuklagatihi. Through that Shuklagatihi, the Jivatma travels, and Shuklagatihi is supposed to take the Jivatma to Brahmaloka. Okay, then the next question is, how can I do all this at the time of the death? Because at the time of death of the physical body, the body is already very, very weak. The mind is also given up its strength. So how can this person manage to do all this, withdrawing the prana from all the organs, bringing it to the heart, taking it to Sushumna Nadi, then taking it to Brahmarandra? So Krishna says, Yoga Balena Chaiva, through the strength of yoga. So if the person wants Krama Mukti, of course he must be an Upasaka, but he must have practiced lots of Ashtanga Yoga, Pranayama, and through all that he is able to now control all the pranas, and Yoga Balena Eva. Only by the strength of that yoga practice, he is able to withdraw the prana and direct them through the Sushumna Nadi. And Shankara in his commentary simply says, Bhumi Jaya Kramena, right? Bhumi Jaya Kramena means by a sequential practice which has resulted from Bhumi Jaya. Now, what is Bhumi Jaya? Shankara doesn't explain. What is literal meaning of Bhumi Jaya?
Born from the earth.
Jaya.
Conquering the body.
Jaya, victorious.
Victory is
Very
conquering.
good. So, Shankara doesn't explain, but there is a sub-commentator called Ramaraya Kavi. He says Bhumi Jaya means Asana Jaya. Now, how do you connect Bhumi to Asana? When you say Bhumi Jaya, how do you connect to Asana Jaya? It's very simple. Okay, let me see if you guys can think of it. How do you connect Bhumi Jaya to Asana Jaya?
Physical body and Bhumi
Hitting the
together.
Bhumi means Prithvi. Prithvi means Upalakshanam for what?
Asana. It's
Prithvi is
Five element?
Upalakshanam for what? Panchamahabhutani. Right, Panchamahabhutani.
Elements.
And the body
Prithvi
contains.
Tattva.
Exactly. Prithvi Tattvam. So, Upalakshanam for the 5 elements for the Bhutani, and the body is made of Panchamahabhutani. Therefore, Bhumajaya means control over the body. Control over the body is Asana, Asana Jaya. As he doesn't say all that, but this is something which all of us can easily derive. So when Shankara says Bhumi Jaya Kramena, he means this yogi must have achieved Asana Jaya, right? And incidentally, Swami Shivananda in his book somewhere says that Asana Jaya means the ability to be in one asana for 3 hours. Okay, so that's a very, very long period, but that's Swami Shivanandaji's interpretation. And Kramena. Next word is Kramena. So this Bhumi Jaya, this Asana Jaya must be followed sequentially. Kramena. Kramena means by other things which come in later stages. What are they? First Asana Jaya, then Indriya Jaya, then Prana Jaya, then Chitta Jaya. So steadiness of posture, Indriya Jaya, control over the sense organs, Prana Jaya, control over the breathing, Chitta Jaya, control over the mind. So ultimately, all this is basically only Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara. All ultimately the whole thing is repeated elsewhere also. But what are different words? So just remember, these words simply mean that this yogi has to be able to ultimately get into pratyahara, withdrawal from the external world completely. And he should have practiced this throughout his life. Because if he doesn't practice throughout life, obviously he won't be able to do it at the time of the death of the body. And therefore, because he has practiced throughout life, he is a very powerful yogi. Therefore, even during the death of his physical body, manasa achalena, he enjoys a mind which is very steady. And with that steady mind, what should he do? Bhaktya yuktaha. He must have his total devotion there, that intense mumukshutvam or intense urge for Ishvara Prapti should be there. Mumukshutvam is not the right word because he is not looking for moksha, because he is a upasaka. He has not come to jnanam. So intense devotion towards Ishvara Prapti there. That should be there. And samyak. Samyak means fully, completely, with full commitment. He should remain absorbed in Saguna Ishvara to such an extent that he forgets all the surroundings. So when you forget all the surroundings, And in this context, what is that particular state called? Remember, he is meditating on Ishvara.
Samadhi.
Samadhi. Dhanam.
Samadhi, yes. But more specifically?
Acharya ji, Pratyahara. Because it's total withdrawal.
Pratyahara is the withdrawal. So he is withdrawn and now he is in Samadhi. But can you, what they call, expand on that Samadhi?
Savikalpa Samadhi.
Savikalpa Samadhi, right? So remember, what does Savikalpa Samadhi mean?
इसका stand है लाल color.
What does
The Trikuti is there in that.
The Triputi is there. That is why Savikalpaha. So in this, the surroundings are forgotten, but remember that he is meditating. So that because of the idea that I am meditating, there is a Vikalpa there. There is a difference there. So Savikalpa Samadhi. And later on, that meditation becomes so deep that he forgets that he is a meditator. Surroundings are forgotten. The self is forgotten. And therefore it becomes Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Right? So in that Nirvikalpa Samadhi, there is only Saguna Ishvara. There is neither the world nor the Upasaka. Only Saguna Ishvara is there. And that Samadhi on Saguna Ishvara, he has practiced not just during the death of his body, but throughout his life. And because of that practice, there is a Vasana which is built up. What is that Vasana called? Samskaraha. So note that if you are a Upasaka, this Samadhi is compulsory for you. It's mandatory. Without that, you cannot, go on to Brahmaloka. But for a Jnani, it is not mandatory. So for a Upasaka, he must be a great meditator. He must be a great yogi also. So Samadhi should have been doing regularly the practice of Samadhi. And because he has meditated so much on Ishvara in that fully concentrated state, there is a Ishvara Vasana formed. Ishvara Samskara formed. And that is why he says that Prayana Kale. Because of that Samskara, even at the time of the death of the physical body, where the body has been weakened, the mind has been weakened, there is no conscious effort possible. What drives you at that time when the willpower is not available, at that point of time, the habit, the samskara, the vasana drives you. And therefore, because of that vasana which has been, for Ishvara vasana which has been formed, the last thought will be Ishvara only. Right? Prayana Kale Manasa Achalena. He is going to think of only Ishvara, but that is not conscious thought. It is not driven by willpower. It is driven only by the vasanas. And therefore, it is important for this Upasaka to have been a regular meditator, a regular devotee doing Ishvara Upasana. And when that happens, what happens? When the body is finally dropped, Satam Param Purusham Upaiti Divyam. From the standpoint of the Sharira Trayam, this person, when the body is dropped, he merges into Saguna Ishvara, which is what Virat, Hiranyagarbha, Antaryami Ishvara, he merges into. Right? And we should not say that he merges in Nirgunam Brahma, because that is Jnani. So he merges into Saguna Ishvara. And we have to further refine our understanding to say that Upaiti Divyam, merging into Saguna Brahman, has to be understood as he departs through the Brahmarandra, he goes to Shuklagati, he goes to Brahmaloka, he attends Brahmaji's classes, and then only he gains knowledge and then gets moksha. So there is a sequence. He departs through the Brahmarandra, he goes to Brahmaloka, he goes to classes, he gets Jnanam, and that Jnanam gives moksha. Because of this sequence, this mukti is called Krama Mukti. Krama means sequential mukti. He gets mukti, but he gets it in a particular krama, particular sequence. Okay. Now we will chant the next verse, the 11th verse. So please unmute yourself. Yadaksharam Vedavido Vadanti
यदक्षरं वेदविदो वदन्ति
Vishanti Yadattayo Vitaragaha
विशन्ति
यद्यतयो रागः
Yadachinto Brahmacharyam Charanti
यदिच्छन्तो ब्रह्मचर्यं चरन्ति
Tatte Padam Sangrahena Pravaksye.
तत्ते पदं सङ्ग्रहेण प्रवक्ष्ये
Okay. So, first of all, let us look at the word over here, Yad Aksharam. So that whole line, first line, can be split up into Yat Aksharam Veda Vidaha Vadanti. That Aksharam which is talked about by Vedavits. Vedavit means the one who knows the Veda. The one who knows the Veda, he talks about an Aksharam. And what is an Aksharam? Shankara defines Aksharam as Na Sharati Iti, which means Avinashi, the one which can never be destroyed. That is Aksharam. Remember that Aksharam can also refer to alphabets. But here Aksharam means Na Sharati Iti Aksharam, which means Avinashi Iti Aksharam, that which is not subject to destruction. And who says that? Vedavit. Who is a Vedavit? Vedavit is one who knows not only to do Parayanam, not only to recite the Vedas, but also knows the meaning of the Vedas. And therefore, he is the person who refers to that Brahman as Aksharam. Aksharam means the absolute reality, the only source of Purnatvam, only source of happiness. Now we should know that, by now we should know that Veda, whether it be Karma Kanda or whether it be Upanishad, whenever it talks about Brahman, it simply uses the word Brahma. It doesn't say Sagunam Brahma or Nirguram Brahma. And therefore, Brahma means Aksharam. Aksharam means both Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman. Veda never says which. Right? So here, when Krishna says Aksharam, which Aksharam is meant? So Shankara clarifies in his commentary, Aksharam here means Sarva Vishesha Nivartakaha. Nivartakaha means free from. Sarva Visheshaha. Visheshaha is an attribute. Sarva Vishesha Nirvartakaha. Aksharam is that which is free from all attributes. What are the attributes? Thulam, Anu, etc. Okay, so all these are free from. Therefore, Asthulam, Anuhu. That is the definition of Aksharam, which is because of that definition, not Sthulaha, not gross, not Anuhu, not minute, not subtle. The references to what? To Nirguna Brahman only. Right? So, Yad Yatahaya Vishanti. Yatahaya means sannyasi. A sannyasi means the one who some nyasaha. Nyasaha is renunciation. Some is complete. So sannyasi is the one who is pursuing this Aksharam goal, the spiritual goal, by renouncing everything else, single-mindedly, by excluding everything else. Yad Yatayaha Vishanti. That Yatayaha, that sannyasi, whoever gives, so we are talking about, when Shankara says sannyasi, obviously he means the one who has got the vastram, the saffron robe. But we have to interpret this as the person who is single-mindedly pursuing the goal of Vedanta, the study of Vedanta. Whoever gives top priority to the spiritual path, top priority to moksha, he alone is a sannyasi. So we did not talk about external sannyasa here. We are talking about the person whose priority is Ishvara, Yatayaha, the one who is committed to Jnana. Shankara, of course, uses the term sannyasa very simply because, remember, sannyasa ashram is exclusively designed for knowledge. That is why samnyasaha. You have given up everything else. and you're focusing only on knowledge. But in the other three ashramas, your primary duty is not Vedanta, right? Now there is a interesting aspect to this. Violation of duty is papam, correct? That is what Veda says. So in sannyasa ashrama, the primary duty is what? The nitya karma is jnanam alone. So if sannyasi doesn't study Vedanta, it is papam. But in other three ashramas, remember, your primary duty is not Vedanta. There are other duties. Because Veda gives so many duties, right? And therefore, if you don't do those duties, like as a student, if you're not studying, as a grahastha, if you are not taking care of your family, these are all papam. So you have to do those. And additionally, because you're a spiritual seeker, you have to study Vedanta. So we have to know this very clearly. Vedanta is not primary duties in the first three ashramas. Therefore, for the sannyasi, there is no choice because he doesn't have any other duty. But for us in other ashramas, there is always, we always have to choose between our primary duties according to the ashrama and between Vedanta. What should you choose? If there is a choice to be made, you have to choose the other duties. But as we grow older, as we grow wiser, we learn to do other duties and also learn to study Vedanta. But in sannyasa, primary duty is Vedanta only. Of course, it is in that sense that Shankara says Vaishanti means Pravishanti, merge into. So he says sannyasi is merged into the Brahman after getting the right knowledge. But of course, for all those adjectives, they apply to us as grihasthas also. So Shankara says this sannyasi gets samyak darshanam, correct knowledge. We also get samyak darshanam, correct knowledge. Sannyasis have vitaragaha, have turned away from raga, from attachment, from finite goals of life. But we also, after having done so much of our other ashrama duties, we have found that real satisfaction will come only from Vedanta, from Jnanam. So we are also vitaragaha. We have also turned away from the finite goals of life. We have found that everything other than Ishvara is finite. So in the classification of para-prakriti and apara-prakriti, we have also arrived at the same conclusion at which sannyasis arrive. What is that conclusion? That everything other than Ishvara is apara-prakriti. Only Ishvara is para-prakriti. Only Ishvara is the goal worthwhile pursuing. And therefore, we also turn towards para-prakriti. And then yad icchantaha, those people desiring that spiritual goal, desiring that aksharam Brahma, what do they do? Brahmacharyam charanti. Okay. He goes on the path of Brahma. Brahmacharyam charanti. And Shankara, of course, adds one word, Brahmacharyam guroho charanti. These people, they go to the guru. Right. So he takes the meaning of all these people as Antevasi, Gurukulvasi. People who want to understand Brahman, they have to go to the teacher, they have to go to the Acharya. There is committed study of scriptures. So Brahma means, here Brahma means Vedanta, the scriptures. Chara is the path. So they take to the path of Vedanta. And then Tatte Padam. So we break that into Tat, Te, Padam. And this is the beauty of Shankaracharya's Bhashyam. Every word he defines so that we have got clarity in our mind. So once Shankara Bhashyam has been studied, each word will be impressed in your mind. You'll never forget. So Tat, Te, Padam. Tat literally means what?
That.
That.
Then
Right? That. And so here Shankara says Tat is equal to Akshara Akhyam. Akhyam means called. So Tat is that which is called Aksharam, which is Brahman. Padam is the destination, Padaniyam, the destination which you have to gain. And Te. Te is aham. So tat te padam means that destination called aksharam, which is to be gained by you. Aham, I, Krishna, te, to you, sangrahena pravakshe, will tell you briefly. Very beautiful little interpretation that aksharam which you have to gain, which is required to be gained by you for your moksha. Te aham sangrahena pravakshe, I shall tell you very briefly. Remember that this last line, tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe, those of us who have seen Upanishad classes, we have seen it somewhere else. What is that? Where do you see it? Anybody remembers? Yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena bravimi om ityetat. You are not up to date with your Kathopanishad, okay? So, those who have done should look at Kathopanishad. It's there in the first chapter, second section or something. Anyway, the difference is that in the Upanishad, with this particular line, there is an additional word. Bravimi om iti etat. I will tell you that om. Okay. So this word, remember that Smriti, Bhagavad Gita is based on Shruti only. And therefore, the last line has been borrowed by Krishna from Kathopanishad. Kathopanishad is talking about om iti etat, that om, which is Brahman. And therefore, this is an indication here that Krishna is going to talk about Omkara Upasana in the next 2-3 verses. Okay. And therefore, Shankara gives a little note over here. He's about Om. Remember here, Om comes in the next 2 verses. But because this this particular mantra line is borrowed from Upanishad, which is referring to Omkara Upasana, Shankara says that Om is a Vachaka. Vachaka means word, right? A padam, a word. A pada, a word. And Vachaka is a word for Brahman. Vachaka is the name, a name being used for Brahman. And therefore, Om is the Vachaka, the word, and Brahman becomes the Vachya, the object of the word, right? So we also call it Pada and Padartha. Pada is Om, Om is Pada, and Padartha, the object referred to by the word Om, is Brahman. So Om Vachaka, Brahman Vachya, alternatively Om Pada, Brahman Padartha. And if so, what is the connection, what is the sambandha between the word and the object? He says it is a Vachya Vachaka Sambandha. Well, very simply example, there is a word, this is a cell phone, right? The word cell phone, the pada cell phone is the Vachaka, is a pada, and the object cell phone is a padartha, the Vachya. And it is in that understanding that whenever you say Om, you have to remember that Om is the indicator, is the word which denotes Nirguna Brahman. And also, by now we should know that whenever I say Om, I am talking about Nirguna Brahman, but that Nirguna Brahman is who is my own self, is I alone. And that's why I say Atma. Atma means I. That Nirguna Brahman is Atma. Not only that, that Brahman is Sarvamiti. It is everything. And therefore, I am Sarvamiti. I am everything. Right? So, this is the meaning of Om as Nirguna Brahman. But if I am contemplating upon Om as Upasana, then Om is Ishvara. It is Saguna Ishvara Upasana. Now here, which meaning should we take? Kathopanishad is Nirguna Brahman. This chapter, is the Upasaka Ajnani? No. How do you know? Arjuna had asked about the Ishvara on whom Dhyanam is to be done Prayana Kale. meditation, upasana is to be done in what manner? Prayanakala he had said. Therefore, we are talking about Saguna Ishvara. And hence this mantra is talking about Paroksha Jnanam, Paroksha Dhyanam, not Nidhi Dhyasana. We are talking about Dhyanam on Saguna Ishvara as a separate entity, as a Upasya Devata. Okay. Now, when you are going to meditate upon a Devata, any Devata, for example, you want to meditate upon Shiva, Lord Shiva, right? That Lord Shiva is not available to you for direct perception. Pratyaksha Agocharam, Lord Shiva is. And if you want to meditate upon something or a Devata who is not available to your object, to your Indriyas, what is the method?
You use an alambanam.
You use
You
Alambana.
superimpose.
Right. So, Upasya Devata must always be invoked upon Alambanam. And then Alambanam has to be Pratyaksha. So, these are simple rules. I'm sure all of you all know. But as I keep saying, we keep on repeating so that it gets etched into our brains. So, any Upasya Devata being Indriya Gocharam, during Upasana has to be invoked upon the Alambanam. And the Alambanam is always Pratyaksham. Alambanam should be visible to my Pratyaksham, to my Indriyas. And secondly, when you say Alambanam, there are two types of Alambanams. One is Pratima, one is Pratika. Anybody knows the difference? Alambanams are always two. Pratima, Pratika.
Pratima is the statue
Okay.
and Pratika is the symbol.
You are right. But for clarity's sake, we need a little bit more explanation. Anybody? How do you- Yeah. Go ahead.
So Shivling is a pratima and Om is a
No, you're giving examples.
Pratika.
First we define and then we give examples. That is how we go ahead. Why am I insisting upon this? Because it enables us to
Think.
train our mind to think logically. Try again. What is the definition of Pratima? Pratima literally doesn't mean statue. Okay. I mean, common usage is statue. But it is an alambanam. And Pratima literally therefore means an alambanam where in that alambanam there are clear features visible like eyes, nose, hands, face, legs. Right? Alambanam where all the individual parts are visible, it is called the Pratima Alambanam. And therefore all the statues, Murtis, Vishnu Murti, Shiva Murti, Deva Murti, Ganesha Murti, all of them are Pratima Alambanam. Okay. Now, this is why it's very important because one of you said, okay, Shiva, this, for example, let us say Shiva Lingam, is it Pratima or Pratika?
Pratika.
Pratika.
Pratika, I think. Yeah.
Pratika, because it doesn't have features like
Correct.
eyes. And
So therefore, where the features are not present, then when the Alambanam doesn't have clear features, it is called Pratika Alambanam. Right? Remember that wherever clear features are there, it is Pratima. Where clear features are not there, it is Pratika. Therefore, Shivalingam is Pratika, Saligramam is Pratika, even Omkara is Pratika. There is a very common understanding that Pratima means a physical symbol and Pratika means a word symbol. That is wrong. It's for that I'm explaining. Pratima means an alambanam where the symbol has clear features Pratika means an alambanam where symbol doesn't have clear features. In that pratika, Omkara is also included. And of all the various alambanams, the most glorious alambanam is said to be the pratika alambanam, Omkara. And that is why all the Upanishads, they present Omkara as the ideal symbol, ideal alambanam for Ishvara. Okay. Now, Shankara again wants to establish that this, what is being presented here, is not Krishna's original idea. Again and again, we will be seeing that everything presented here is not Krishna's original idea. Because Krishna already said, where did he say that this teaching was already given?
Chapter
Pura
4.
Prokta.
Pura Prokta.
Chapter 4,
Maya.
he has already said, I have already given the teaching. And then he is repeating. So again, to establish that idea that this is not Krishna's original teaching, but it is Shruti only, Shankara points out that there are certain quotations, from Prashna Upanishad, for example, from Katha Upanishad, to show that this is not Krishna's original teaching. And therefore, Shankara here says very clearly that Omkara has a very unique feature. As compared to other alambanams, Omkara has a very unique feature. And what is that feature? Anybody knows? Why is Omkara so special? Because there is a feature in Omkara which is not available in the other alambanams.
It has a matra and amatra component.
No.
The
not
matra is unique to it.
It represents Saguna and Nirguna Brahma.
That of course, Omkara can be used to represent some Saguna and Nirguna depending upon whether you are a Upasaka or a Vedanta student. But Shankara says Pratima and Pratika Rupena. This Omkara is not only Pratima Rupena but Pratika Rupena. It can be used as a word also and can be used as a symbol also. All other namas are all words but not symbols. See the difference. Any other Ishvara nama, Rama, Shiva, Krishna, Ganesha, Devi, Saraswati, all are what? They are words, but they are not symbols. Om is the only one which is a word and a symbol. For example, Saligramam is a symbol, Alambanam, but they are not, it's not word. Shivalingam is a symbol, but it's not a word. So normally they are exclusive. Words are not symbols and symbols are not words. But in the case of Omkara, the unique feature is what? It can serve both as a symbol and as a word. So that's one very important idea being mentioned by Shankaracharya here. We don't see it anywhere else. And this Omkara is a means of moksha, right? Now here in this chapter, Upasana is being presented as an intermediate means of moksha. So it is presented for whom? Is it to a Mandha Madhyama Uttara Adhikari? Which one? So Shankara says...
Madhyama?
No, Shankara says Manda Madhyama Buddhinam. Omkara Upasana is presented as the tool, as a means of moksha for the Manda Buddhihi and the Madhyama Buddhihi. Remember that Manda Buddhihi literally means inferior students, but you should not take it as derogatory. Manda Buddhihi means students who are just starting on the journey. Madhyama Buddhi means students who have reached up to a particular stage. So you can take it as Ekarupa Ishvara Upasakas and Vishwarupa Upasakas. You can take that as one meaning. So basically, junior students and intermediary students. Omkara Upasana is only for that, right? And what is the sadhana for advanced students? Mahavakyam Vicharaha. That Mahavakyam Vicharaha will come in the 9th chapter. Now, all of us are what? Manda, Madhya or Uttama students.
Mand Madhyam.
So this is the problem, you see. If you say you are Manda Madhyama student, then you are, you are saying, I won't get moksha.
Oh,
You have been here for ages. All of you all have been here for 4-5 years. The first thing, the first foundation for a student is to improve his self-image. And therefore, you have to start to think of yourself as advanced students. Okay, now the next question is, if I'm an advanced student, then of course I don't need to do this chapter, right? Because it's only for Manda Madhyama Buddhi. So that stand we cannot take here because we are studying the Bhagavad Gita. And therefore we have to go through this chapter also. Then the question is, what about these Manda Madhyama Adhikaris? Will they get moksha? So Shankara says, Omkarasya Upasanam, doing Omkara Upasanam, Kalantare, at the end of time, Mukti Phalam Uktam. They will get Mukti if they follow the instructions for Upasana given in the next few verses and then successfully sit down Prayana Kale and get their pranas into the heart and then send the prana through Brahmarandra and then go to Brahmaloka and Brahmaloka go to Brahmaloka. You have to avoid the temptation of all the beautiful, things which are available to you because all the apsaras will be there. So instead of going to their dance shows, we have to go to Brahmaji's classes, which are going to be much more boring, and that we have to do every day, and then get Jnanam, and then get Mukti Phalam. So that is what is Kalantare, in sequence. At the end of time, he will get. Why does he say Kalantare? Because once you go to Brahmaloka, and let us say that you have the Prarabdha or the willpower to go to Lord Brahmaji and sit through all his classes, and then you become a Jivan Mukta. But when do you become Videha Mukta?
Mahapralaya.
So when does the body drop in Brahmaloka? In Mahapralayam. When the whole Brahmaloka is destroyed, so you have to wait. So isn't it far better to do this job in this life consisting of 100 years than to wait for one full cycle of Brahmaji's life? So that is what he's asking. So she says, you will get mukti, but it's a long, drawn out mukti. Therefore, better to study Vedanta in this session itself. Okay. Now, let us stand the next two verses. Sarvadvarani Sanyamya
सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य
Manohradi Niruddhya cha
मनोहृदि निरुध्य च
Murdhya Dhyayatmanah Pranam
मूर्ध्याध्यात्मनः प्राण
Asthito Yoga Dharanam
आस्थितो योगधारणाम्
Omityekaksharam Brahma
Om
ओमित्येकाक्षरं ब्रह्म
Vyaharan Mamanusmaran
व्याहरन् मामनुस्मरन्
Yah Prayati Tejandeham
यः प्रयाति त्यजेन्द्रहम्
Yah Prayati Tejandeham
प्रयाति त्यजेन्द्रहम्
Sayati Paramam Gatim.
सयाति परमां गतिम्.
So we are talking about a concrete way to visualize the formless Brahman. So Shastra presents, you use a concrete symbol to visualize the formless Brahman. And concrete symbol we call alambanam. And this alambanam, we said, can be pratika or pratima. Now, if you look at texts like Vishnu Sahasranama, Lalita Sahasranama, they all give descriptions of the deity, hands, various weapons which are hand in the hand, etc. Okay, a lot of pratima alambanam is there. And then there is Shivalinga, no hands, no legs, no clarity on anything, pratika alambanam. So some people practice meditation on the flame. Flame is also pratika alambanam, right? Now, supposing you want to practice upasana, but you don't want to practice on Ekaropeshwara, on Ishtadevata, then Shastra says, okay, you use Omkara. Omkara is a alambanam given by Shastra itself. Kathopanishad gives Omkara. And when you invoke the Lord in Omkara, it is called Omkara Upasana. So Omkara Upasana is a meditation in which I invoke the Lord on the pratika, which is Om. And this is a very, very well-known Upasana. And therefore, as we go through all the Upanishads, you will see that Upanishads discuss Omkara Upasana in great detail. Mundaka discusses, Kathopanishad discusses, Taittiriya discusses, Chandogya discusses, everywhere extensive discussions on this Omkara Upasana is there. But I'd like to point out that though Shastra says do Omkara Upasana, it is not necessary that one has to do Omkara Upasana only. For Upasana, you can choose your Ishtadevata only. Only if you don't want to do on a Ishtadevata, then you should have a concrete symbol, which is Omkara. And this has to be practiced throughout your life, so that the Vasana is built up. When the Vasana builds up, successfully the Vasana builds up, then you will find that during your last stages also, that Vasana will drive the mind. And therefore, you will be remembering the Lord at that point of time also. So what should you do? Mano hridi nirudhya cha. Manaha nirudhya, having controlled the mind, having withdrawn the mind, hridi, place it in the heart. Okay. So you have to relate this to all the various Ashtanga procedures. The first step is withdraw the mind. What is that in Ashtanga? Remember, mind means Indriyas also here.
Pratyahara.
So it is Pratyahara. Now, before Pratyahara, because you are starting with Pratyahara over here, you have to take the other steps also. Asana, Pranayama, all that you have to take as having been done. And then you are seated in the procedure, and then you are doing Pratyahara. So you are seated in Padmasana, Siddhasana, whatever. What should you do? Sarva Dwarani Sanyamya. Through all the openings, he has to withdraw all the sense organs from all the individual golakams and bring them to the heart. Sarva Dwarani Sanyamya, having controlled the sense organs, bring them to the heart. Therefore, the person who is being discussed here, remember, is a yogi, not a jnani. Right? And why do you have to bring the sense organs to the heart? Because sense organs are the entry point through which all the sense objects, the world, enters your mind. And once the world or the sense objects enter your mind, each entry will trigger some thought. But what is Krishna saying? Remember only me. And therefore, if you have to remember Ishvara, you have to shut down all the other entry of all the other sense objects. And therefore, Dwarani. So they are Dwarani here, but can be taken as Dasha Indriyani. All the 10 sense organs, Jnana Indriyas and Karma Indriyas, must be withdrawn, which is what we call Pratyahara. And then Atmanam Pranam Murdhini Adhyayaha. So Atmanam here is a reflexive pronoun, meaning your own. Atmanam Pranam, your own Pranaha. Murdhini Adhyayaha. Murdha is the top of the head, where I said Brahmarandra is there. Brahmarandra is the opening where the Sushumna Nadi is supposed to emerge. So prana should be withdrawn from the respective centers, brought to the heart, taken through the Sushumna Nadi from the heart, and then brought to the Brahmarandra from where it will emerge. Right? So Atmanam Pranam, withdrawing one's own prana. So here again, remember the withdrawal of the prana is pranayama only. So pranayama and pratyahara has been taken care of. Then what should you do? Yoga dharanam asthitaha. You should practice yoga dharana. Yoga dharana here is Omkara Upasana. Right? So here, Shri Krishna is suggesting that this Upasana should go along with Ashtanga Yoga. And therefore another condition is added. If you want Krama Mukti, you should be an expert in Hatha Yoga also. You should have the capacity to withdraw prana. You should know what are the nadis. You should have practiced the techniques of bandhas and mudras. You should know Udhyana Bandha, Avli Bandha. All these things you should know. All the various chakras, all you should know. The movement of the prana from chakra to chakra you should know. And therefore, once Hatha Yoga comes into discussion, Upasana comes into discussion, all these things which you study about, chakra discussions, all will come. You should know what position is which chakra, Muladhara, Radhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Agnya, etc. Everything you should know. You should know about Kundalini, how to raise the Kundalini, raise it through chakra, Sushumna Nadi, all this you have to know, right? Now, all this is subsidiary, not mentioned in the Gita because we don't find chakra at all in the Gita. Why? Because that is only important where Upasana and Krama Mukti is concerned. And in Gita, that is not our primary topic. Okay, but what is that Upasana? That Upasana, which you're going to do after doing all this, that Upasana will come in the 13th verse, which we will do in the next class. Until then, any questions?
Sir, just as the symbol Om is a Pratima and a Pratik Alamba, isn't swastik also something like that? Swastik symbol?
Swastik is not mentioned in the Vedas. We are talking about specifically what is mentioned in Veda.
Okay.
As a alambana.
Acharyaji, I want to know, are there any equivalents of these two words which you use, the Sushumna Nadi and the Brahmandra, in the medical terminology so that we can understand?
No. They are all in the Sukshma Shariram, which medical science doesn't deal with. So,
And another thing is, we've been talking of Krama Mukti, but Krishna has not used this term
ever. Anywhere.
ever.
Correct.
In-
So this concept gets great discussion in Brahma Sutra, and all discussions that we have about Krama Mukti is borrowed from Brahma Sutra. When we study Brahma Sutra, now finally you will be able to connect immediately.
Okay.
But all the discussions take place there, including the journey, how the journey takes place, who are the people accompanying the Jivatma, all that details you find in Brahma Sutra.
Ji, thank you.
Hari Om Raviji.
Hari Om Ji.
Actually, I have forgotten or I have missed Trikuti explanation. So, is it in between the eyebrows? Or what is Trikuti?
Trikuti? No, they are talking about Triputi.
Triputi,
Triputi
okay.
is triad. Bhrovar Madhye is in between the eyebrows.
Okay.
Bhrovo is the eyebrow, Madhye is in between. Bhrovo Madhye.
Okay. So, Triputi is?
Triputi simply means the triad, the knower, the knowing instrument, and the known.
No. Okay.
Pramata, Pramayam, Pramanam. Or Karta.
So, in Nirvikalpa, all the three will be merged, right?
All the three won't be there. There will be only the object of meditation. Nothing else will be there.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Om Raviji.
Om Manasi.
in the previous verse, you mentioned that Madhyam and Adham Adhikari, Manda and Madhyam Adhikari, for them Upasana is mentioned.
Yes.
So what about the advanced Adhikari, Uttam Adhikari? They also need to do Upasana, right?
No. They need to do
What they
jnanam.
do Nididhyasanam.
Jnanam. You are saying that the upasana gives you chitta shuddhi and then you come to jnanam. And therefore, once you come to jnanam, all these disciplines mentioned in Veda Purva, which includes karma yoga and upasana yoga, are no longer relevant for you because they have served their purpose. For advanced student, basically Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. That is the sadhana.
But sir, my question also was related to this. But even if a person has a lot of jnanam and tikshna buddhi, but there must be times when he's not able to concentrate or something, and then he resorts to the chanting and upasana and all that. So
Practically, yes, which means that you have come to jnanam before you were ready. But that is what happens to all of us, right? So that is why we say, even as a upasaka, even as a jnani, continue your daily meditation so that your mind remains focused. But it is not required if our mind is already focused. It's only because we have not completed Chitta Shuddhi that we need that. If Jnana Yogyata is not complete, then you will need that. Otherwise, you don't.
so the upasaka way or the chanting way is a weaker mind, not an unfocused, not a fully focused mind.
A mind which is not got Jnana Yogyata. Because remember that Veda Purva is giving you a particular end, and that is a focused mind, unwavering focused mind. Once that is obtained, then you don't need Veda Purva. Then it is Veda Jnana Kanda. That is how the Shastra is designed. But in practice, it doesn't happen, and therefore you continue to do so that your mind doesn't get disturbed.
So, but the chanting of those extensive shlokas needs so much memory and all repractice. So that
That is why you
doesn't
chant,
involve the mind.
because the whole reason for that is to keep your memory active. But as I said, if you have already done all that and arrived at a focused mind, then you don't need that anymore, because mind once focused will remain focused, because now you are focusing on jnanam. I am not discouraging anybody, okay? If you do it, you have to do it. Ideally, you should continue to do, because it's rare that you find a 100% focused mind.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. So with this, we'll stop. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate
Purnasya Purnamadaయ
Evavashishyate.
Om
Shanti
Shanti
Om Tat Sat.
Shanti.
Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Thank
Thank you, sir.
you.